I walked into the grocery store to close for the night and found my boss lying in a pool of blood. The murder weapon was in my hand. The sheriff was staring at me, and everyone in town believed I was the killer. The first time I saw the blood, it was already drying. It had crept into the cracks of the old wooden floorboards of Miller's grocery, dark and sticky like spilled paint. Sheriff Dalton was kneeling beside the body, his hat pushed back, his face pale under the fluorescent lights, and everyone in the store was staring at me. "Emily Carter," the sheriff said slowly, rising to his feet. "You want to tell me why you were standing over Daniel Reeves with a knife in your hand?" I looked down. The knife was still in my fingers, and Daniel Reeves, my boss, my neighbor, and the richest man in our tiny town of Briarwood, was lying dead at my feet. Briarwood, Colorado had a population of 2,300 people and exactly one grocery store, Miller's Grocery. I had worked there for 4 years. Daniel Reeves bought it 2 years ago. He was charming when he arrived, big smile, expensive truck, the kind of man who remembered everyone's name. But that charm faded fast. Within months, everyone knew Daniel had a temper and a habit of making enemies. Still, I never imagined someone would kill him, and I definitely never imagined I'd be accused of it. "Emily," Sheriff Dalton said again, his voice tight, "drop the knife." My hand opened automatically. The knife clattered to the floor. "I didn't do this," I whispered, but the silence around me felt like a verdict. They questioned me for 6 hours. The police station smelled like old coffee and dust. Sheriff Dalton sat across from me, while Deputy Mark Jensen leaned against the wall with his arms crossed. "You were the last person to see him alive," Dalton said. "I came to close the store. The lights were off in the office. I thought he'd left." But he hadn't. "No," I swallowed. "I walked in and found him on the floor. There was blood everywhere. The knife was next to him. I picked it up without thinking." Mark Jensen snorted. "Convenient." "I panicked." Dalton slid a photograph across the table. It was Daniel's office, and on the wall behind him, written in blood, were 2 words: "Pay me." Dalton tapped the picture. "Daniel told people you were stealing from the register." My stomach dropped. "That's not true." "He fired you yesterday." "Yes, and tonight he's dead." The room felt smaller. "You think I killed him because he fired me?" I said. Dalton didn't answer. He didn't have to. They let me go that night, but not because they believed me, because they didn't have enough evidence yet. In Briarwood, that was almost worse. By the next morning, everyone knew. At the diner, conversations stopped when I walked in. At the gas station, people stared like I was already wearing prison orange. I had lived here my whole life, and suddenly my town felt like a courtroom. But something bothered me, something that didn't fit. The message on the wall: "Pay me." Daniel had plenty of enemies, but most of them were angry customers or former employees. None of them would write something like that, unless they were owed money. That's when I remembered Liam Torres. Liam worked part-time stocking shelves. Quiet guy, kept to himself. 3 days before the murder, I had overheard him arguing with Daniel in the back hallway. "You promised," he had said, his voice shaking. Daniel laughed. "I promise a lot of things." "You owe me." "Prove it." Then Daniel slammed the office door in his face. At the time, I didn't think much of it. Now, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I found Liam behind the grocery store that evening, smoking by the dumpster. He looked startled when he saw me. "Emily?" "Liam," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "What did Daniel owe you?" His face went blank. "Nothing." "Don't lie to me. I heard the argument." He flicked his cigarette away. "That's none of your business." "It is when I'm being accused of murder." That got his attention. He stared at me for a long moment. Then he sighed. Daniel borrowed money from me. I blinked. You loaned him money? My father died last year, Liam said quietly. Insurance payout. Daniel said he had an investment opportunity, promised to double it. And he lost it. My stomach tightened. So he refused to pay you back? Liam nodded. But that doesn't mean I killed him. I didn't say you did, but the way his hands were shaking said more than his words. That night I couldn't sleep. Something about Liam's story felt wrong. Why would Daniel borrow money from a grocery clerk? Daniel Reeves wasn't the kind of man who admitted financial trouble, unless he was desperate. The next morning, I drove to the county records office. 2 hours later, I found something interesting. Daniel Reeves wasn't rich. He was drowning. Bank loans, late payments, property liens. The man who strutted around Briarwood like a millionaire was actually weeks away from bankruptcy. And then I noticed something else. One of the loans had a co-signer, Mark Jensen, the deputy sheriff. The realization hit me like ice water. Mark Jensen had been unusually quiet during my interrogation. Too quiet. And if Daniel went bankrupt, that loan would fall on Mark, which meant Mark had something to lose. A lot. I drove straight to the police station. Sheriff Dalton was in his office. You need to see this, I said, dropping the paperwork on his desk. He scanned the documents slowly. His eyes narrowed. Where did you get these? Public records? Dalton leaned back in his chair. You're saying my deputy killed Daniel Reeves? I'm saying he had a reason. Dalton stared at the papers again. Then he reached for his radio. Mark, he said calmly, come to my office. Footsteps echoed down the hallway. My heart pounded. Mark Jensen stepped inside. You wanted me... He stopped when he saw the papers. His face changed instantly. Mark, Dalton said quietly, care to explain this loan? Mark didn't answer. Instead, his hand drifted slowly toward his belt, where his gun was. Mark, Dalton warned, but it was already happening. Mark yanked the gun free. You should have left it alone, he said, looking straight at me. My blood turned cold. You killed him, I whispered. Mark's jaw tightened. He was going to ruin me, he snapped. If that bankruptcy came out, the bank would have taken everything. So you murdered him? He attacked me first, Mark said. I went there to talk. He laughed in my face. Mark's voice shook with anger. So I grabbed the knife. And wrote the message? Dalton asked. Mark nodded toward me. I figured everyone would believe she did it. My stomach twisted. You framed me. You were perfect, he said. Fired employee, angry, alone in the store. Dalton's voice hardened. Put the gun down, Mark. For a moment, no one moved. Then Mark sighed and lowered the weapon. 2 weeks later, Mark Jensen confessed to the murder of Daniel Reeves. The blood message had been written after the killing to make it look like a dispute over stolen money, and I had been the easiest target. Small-town logic. People believe what they expect, and in Briarwood, they expected the angry employee to be guilty, not the friendly deputy. The grocery store reopened a month later under new ownership. Sometimes customers still glance at me like they remember the headlines, but the whispers have faded. Justice in a small town takes time. As for me, I still work the closing shift, but now, whenever I lock the doors at night, I check the office first, just in case. Because the night I found Daniel Reeves bleeding on that floor taught me something I'll never forget. In a town where everyone knows everyone, the most dangerous person might be the one wearing the badge.